Good morning. Well, actually, it's afternoon in the UK. I don't know what time it is, where you're from, and where you're watching from, but I hope you're having a wonderful Easter Sunday. I have just had the most amazing time here over the last 5 days as we discussed 5 simple and practical steps to change or turn a tomb experience into a womb experience. What looks like the end for the disciples. On Easter Sunday, they discovered that it was only the very beginning of something much greater, something better than they could ever have hoped for. So the 5 steps we looked at over the last few days, we found in Proverbs 4 from verse 20 to 27. And step 1 was to pay attention to what we hear. When we want to turn a tomb into a womb, we need to live with our ear towards heaven, and we have to acknowledge even the little things that we hear from God. And the more we acknowledge those things, we write them down, we take them seriously, the more God gives us. The second step was to stay in the Word, to not just go from one word to the next, one prophecy to the next, but to remain with the Word, to sit with the Word. You know, Jesus was the Word made flesh, and as we sit with Him until that Word starts to become part of our imagination, part of our thinking, it takes root in our heart. That is how the promise of breakthrough is conceived, from within our hearts. Step 3, we looked at guarding our hearts against fear and guilt, condemnation, anything that the enemy will use to come after the seed that God has planted in our hearts. It's so important to guard our hearts. The 4th step we looked at yesterday was to speak life intentionally over the seed. Life and death, or as the proverb says, death and life is in the power of our tongue. It's so much easier to speak death than it is to speak life. We're naturally inclined to speak death. So it's important that we actually become intentional about speaking life over the seed that is planted in us. So today we're looking at the fifth and final step, which is found in Proverbs 4, verse 25 to 27. And it says, look straight ahead and fix your eyes on the path before your feet. Mark out a straight path for your feet. Then stick to the path and stay safe. Don't get sidetracked and keep your feet from following evil. You know, what is wonderful to me about Mary's story is just this amazing vision she had for the life of Jesus. Even before he was born, she writes this beautiful song, or she makes this declaration, the song of praise that we can find in Luke chapter 1 from verse 47 to verse 55. She just worships this Savior that she's carrying for everything that he's going to do, even before she holds him in her arms. And I just think it's such an incredible truth that we find there, because if we want to turn a tomb into a womb, we have to hold on to the vision that God gives us for this promise. But you know, what strikes me about her story as well is that not only did she have to conceive salvation and give birth to salvation, but she had to raise salvation. It would be many years before Jesus would fulfill that promise by dying on the cross and being resurrected on that resurrection day. So all that time she'd have to care for him, to look after him. And in the same way, that promise that we receive from God comes with an incredible responsibility. We will have to make some sacrifices, invest some time, invest our money, skills, and it'll cost something to see that vision that we give birth to raise it so that it can become everything that God intended for it to be. You know, one of the things that's really kept me going through this process of being in this lockdown time where things feel a little bit strange, uncertain, and a little bit dark at times, has been just being focused on the assignment that God's given me. So I have been working really hard on this book. And part of this process has been investing in mentorship. But it's that investment, those little steps that they've put before me, little steps of obedience that has kept me focused on the assignment. It's kept my foot from being distracted or going off the path. I've got some incredible mentors, and I just want to shout out to a couple of them. And the first mentor that's just been such a beautiful friend and incredible teacher in my life has been Robia Scott. She has really helped me to mark that path out before me, put some action steps into place, because following the Lord and giving birth to what He's put in our hearts is very practical. It is a practical process. Yes, there's praying and there's fasting and there's all the spiritual side of it, but there's also a very practical side to walking out the plans that God has for you. And the other mentorship program that I just want to shout out to as well is the Unlocking Your Book mentorship that I joined in November last year. I've carried this story in me, this book in me for such a long time, over a decade. And I'd often start and then I wouldn't know what next. I didn't know the next steps. I wouldn't know what to do. But through this mentoring program, just having those little steps to follow, just following little steps of obedience has taken me forward. And now I can start to see that promise develop. I can feel the baby kick, and it's been so incredibly awesome. And God's faithfulness in it has just been absolutely remarkable. He will show you where to go when you pray and you ask Him for the next steps. He will help you to mark out that path before you. So I want to encourage you through the activation today. The first thing I want to ask you is, what is the assignment that God has put on your heart? What is the assignment that He's put on your heart? And then I want to encourage you to write it out so that you have it before you. Write it out. What does it look like? And then the last thing is, I just want to encourage you to invest in mentoring, invest in people that can help you be accountable and take those little steps of obedience. I promise you, it'll make such a huge difference. And then I'm going to leave you with this last and final thought, and it's this, that your breakthrough is only the beginning of the marvelous plan that God has for your life. God is up to something huge. He's up to something big. And you may be either in that place where you are in that waiting room, you're expectant with the promise, or maybe you're seeing that breakthrough come to life right now. But I want to encourage you that it's only the beginning. You will still need to raise that promise. Yes, you have to conceive it. Yes, you have to give birth to it. But then you have to raise it until it becomes everything that God has intended for it to become. Right, so just to do a quick recap before I say goodbye. Over the last 5 days, we looked at these 5 easy steps, and it's so simple and practical. It's listening, staying, guarding, speaking, and walking. And it's not just one day and then everything's over. It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle of listening, a lifestyle of staying in the Word, a lifestyle of guarding our hearts, a lifestyle of speaking life, and a lifestyle of walking step by step into everything that God has for us. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to these vlogs and to read the blog. And I want to ask you to get in touch with me. If you want to have a look at my vlog, my email address is in there, my blog. And I would love to hear more from you and hear more about your journey as well. God bless you. Have a fantastic Easter Sunday, and the best is yet to come. Bye.